Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, and I'm pleased to have ESPN's Deputy Editor of Sports Content at ESPN, David Bearman, to join us. And welcome to the show, David. What do you think so far of this week?
Thanks, John. It's been a great week. I know it's been busy. We have the golf, we have UFC coming up, and we have obviously March Madness starting tonight with the first four. And I'd be remiss if I didn't wish you a happy 29th birthday. I know it's your birthday today. I would assume 29 is how many years young you are. So happy birthday.
Well, yeah, you can tell by these guns. I mean, look at them. Yeah, it's a pretty good day, and I guess I have some friends out there that have gotten the word around on Twitter and other social platforms that it's a big day for me. So I appreciate that. I don't look at it as anything more than a number, and I enjoy working with numbers. So it's all good. I appreciate that, David.
Absolutely. What number is it? I didn't actually see the tweet. I just knew it was your birthday.
It is the big 60, believe it or not.
There you go. Just a number.
Nobody believes it though. Like
60's the new 40, right?
I think so. I might, if I enter these senior golf tournaments and the PGA sectionals and stuff like that, I think I might take my birth certificate along just in case.
Sure.
But it's nothing wrong with being 60 and being called a baby face. That's okay. I can handle it. So we have this little basketball tournament that's starting tomorrow, among other things, and I know we wanted to talk about possible Final Four picks, and I'm sure people are interested in how perhaps you structure your bracket or how I do it.
Sure.
Obviously, nobody's ever had a perfect bracket, so there could be 100 million different theories to doing your bracket. But let's first start with the candidates for the Final Four that you see fit to make it there.
Well, the first thing, John, that jumped out at me when looking at the bracket is, everybody talked all year long about Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan as the three top teams in the country, and then a little bit of a drop off. Who's going to get the fourth number one? And Illinois played their way into that, so you have it that way. But when I look at the bracket, I see a lot of separation, not just based on the teams, but based on the matchups as well. And I'm actually quite surprised that, you never know what goes into the making of it, especially with COVID and teams playing 10 games. Some teams will play 30 games, and some teams have a conference tournament. Some teams get kicked out, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm actually quite surprised at how easy Gonzaga's region seems compared to how hard Michigan's region seems. And you could argue that they're two of the top three teams in the country. And the Zags went ahead and won their conference championship and have an undefeated season going into the tournament. And Michigan did lose to Ohio State at the Big Ten tournament. But, you look at Gonzaga's bracket and you have, Iowa as a 2 seed is pretty formidable. I wouldn't throw that one out there. 3 seed Kansas has had their issues, COVID issues, as well as playing issues. Virginia's in the same boat, albeit technically our defending champion from, 600 and something days ago. Virginia has had issues this year. It's the reason why they're a 4 seed. You saw Creighton getting blown out by Georgetown in the Big East championship game. And USC is that strong of a 6 seed as well. So I look at Gonzaga's region and I say, wow, they should have no issue remaining undefeated all the way to the Final Four, which would then, of course, leave them 2 games away from the first perfect season since Indiana. But then when I look at the bottom bracket and I see Michigan, there are roadblocks everywhere with this Michigan bracket. Obviously, they're going to beat whoever wins the 16 seed game night. But you have a potential matchup with LSU, who is one of the stronger 8 seeds I've seen in a bracket in recent time. They're a really good squad, a lot of talent. Lost the SEC championship game by 1 point. I could see LSU knocking off Michigan if Lively is not healthy. Next up would be potentially a date with Florida State, who's not anybody I would want to play in the tournament. You know how hard that is for me to say as a Florida grad. Florida State has, made the Sweet 16 last year, was a couple of buckets away from the Final Four 2 tournaments ago last year, but you know what I mean. So FSU is a really formidable 4 seed, and then waiting on the other side of that is potentially an Alabama-Texas winner, which is on the same side of the bracket as Michigan State and BYU, all good teams. That is as loaded as a bracket as I've seen in a long time. When I'm looking at it, I don't have Michigan coming out of it, which is surprising to me because I actually went into the bracket thinking I was Michigan thing. But those are some of the things that stuck out at me is how different an easier Gonzaga's bracket seems, and I'm not going to say is because there's no number to put on it, than Michigan's. Whereas on the other side, I think Baylor has a decent bracket, but can easily make it to the Final Four. And I actually have Houston coming out of the bottom region of the bracket, because although I think Illinois is a great team, I think they lose to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State showed a lot in their Big 12 run, but I have Oklahoma State and Houston playing in the regional final. That's as of 1 Eastern on the day before the bracket is actually due. So we'll see how many changes I make it to tonight, but I don't see it as the 3 teams and then 1. I actually think you're going to have some upsets. Not many, since I think this year is going to be a little bit more top heavy. But I actually think Michigan's going to have a lot of problem in that bracket. And to me, they're the best team in the country, but that bracket is very, very, very difficult.
And they're missing arguably their best player. Michigan is. Yep. So that makes it even tougher. The one thing I thought was really interesting is did a little digging in the database. So Gonzaga is the 20th team in the history of the tournament to go undefeated entering the tournament. Only 7 have run the slate. That means 13 have not. And it hasn't happened since 1976 when the tournament advanced to 64, 65, and now the 68 team number of teams in the tournament. So, Gonzaga arguably has 3 of the top 20, certainly, if not the top 10 players on their roster to begin with. They're one of the most efficient teams we've ever seen in the last 20 years, maybe all the way back to 1976 for all I know. So it is hard to bet against Gonzaga. But the sentiment, I run that application I was telling you about on Twitter. I gather 2,200 tweets, and it comes up with an index that is basically giving a litmus test of where the betting public's view is on a particular college basketball team. So it can be positive sentiment, neutral sentiment, negative. It's really intriguing to me that Gonzaga has the number 1 positive sentiment, which is a contrarian thing. You don't want to have that, because when everybody is facing the same way, oftentimes the opposite or the outcome is not what we all expected. And it's unbelievable to me, but Iowa is the worst sentiment. They're considered soft. That was the most popular key word that came up out of the 2,200 tweets. So either somebody's rapid firing, Iowa stinks, Iowa soft, or this is a true sentiment. So, based on that, David, I would almost hope to see Iowa and Gonzaga meet, because then I would be handcuffed on who I would take. I think I might have to get the gold coin out, and flip the coin and go with it, and filling out my bracket.
It's not a bad pick. I've watched Iowa a lot this year. I have a buddy who's a really, really big Iowa fan. His metrics say that Iowa is one of the top 3 teams in the country. I've had mixed results betting on Iowa this year. There's games that they should have won that they lost. And there's games that I didn't think they were going to win or cover that they wound up winning. And sometimes it happens in the exact same game where Iowa will jump out to a 20-point lead and end up losing. So that'll be a good regional final if we get there. And if you look at who's 3 through 6 in that bracket, I think you're looking at, of any of the 4 regions, the 1 versus the 2 meeting would be in the Gonzaga, Iowa region, because of what the other teams look like. And I don't really think Kansas, Virginia, and Creighton are going to make much hay, so I like that 1-2 bracket matchup there. Might not get that in the other sides of the bracket, but I do like it in that one.
For what it's worth, David, I have my Final Four, my initial run through. Like you said, that this is as of 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. So by 7 o'clock and maybe 2 IPAs, I'll have a totally different view for my bracket. But Iowa, I have coming out. And then Alabama, Illinois, Arkansas. And Arkansas is the team that I think has what it takes. They have all those characteristics that we know consist of a championship run or a Final Four type team. They're in a part of the bracket there where if they do face Ohio State, we've seen them kind of regress a little bit lately. And then it would be possibly Baylor. But then the magic is, and this is the magic of March Madness, say North Carolina. Best offensive one of the best offensive teams in the country, but definitely the best offensive rebounding team. And they have tremendous length with those three guys, tremendous size. They may not have the best guard play, but you know what? That's a reasonable upset. And I would, if Baylor meets North Carolina will be a 6.5-point dog in the second round.
I like that philosophy. I actually had Arkansas in my Final Four last night when I was looking at it, and I switched it to Baylor this morning. I might go back and forth on that one, but I do like Arkansas to beat Ohio State. I think Musselman's team is a very strong team, as they've shown. And you're right, like having Baylor in the Final Four is risky because of the fact that they do play that North Carolina Wisconsin winner. And, that could be a tough matchup. I do have them winning, and I have them going to the regional final before losing to. Right, I have them beating Arkansas, but I'm still hedging that one. It might be a gold coin scenario as well. I was asked last night on a show about, if you bet against Gonzaga because no one's done it since 1976. I go, listen, you're talking a guy who's a fan of the Miami Dolphins, whose only thing I can shout every single year is that no one else has gone perfect since 1972. So I would like to think that no one is going to repeat what Indiana did from 76. But, this Gonzaga team is pretty strong. They're pretty good, and I do think they have a weak bracket. You get to the Final Four, you got to win 2 games. And, they've shown that they're the best team in the country, so they just got to do it 6 more times and realistically probably 4 more times. But they can definitely get it done. It's just a matter of whether you're going to pick them or not.
Yeah, there's no question with that. I think I'm coming from the standpoint, like if you're in a bracket pool of 100, and say it's $10 entry fee, that's where it becomes tough because the standings are going to show the teams doing well that have Gonzaga going all the way.
Sure, and I totally agree with that sentiment because if you rewind 6 years ago when Kentucky was in this very situation, entering the tournament unbeaten, I won a pool, first time I ever won a bracket pool, a survivor pool, and a handicapping pool, all predicated on Kentucky not going undefeated. And I had bet Wisconsin to beat them, not only in the betting pool, a handicapping pool, but I had them in the bracket and I had them in a survivor pool while everybody else was on Kentucky going, they're the best team in the country, 5 NBA starters, they're going to go unbeaten. It's so hard to do that I played the contrarian side. I knew that if I wanted a chance to win any of those pools, you had to go against that. And I went ahead and picked Wisconsin and won all 3 pools because I'm not saying it's going to happen here with Gonzaga, but it worked for me 6 years ago where everybody on the planet had Kentucky, best team of all time. And I remember I was out with my wife and I watched the first half and then had to leave. I remember listening to the end of it on the radio back in, and it was among the greatest sports betting moments of my life because I knew who was on the other side, and it put me right there at the top. And at that point, it almost didn't matter that Duke beat Wisconsin because Wisconsin had knocked off Kentucky.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good. It reminds me of the Houston team that lost to NC State way back in the day. I was driving back to college. I remember exactly where I was. And that was a stunner.
That's what March is all about, or
yep.
Early April. So
definitely is what makes it fun. Other than that, in the bracket, if you don't have anything else there, I did see that Matt Jones shot a 61.
Yeah, that's an impressive score out of Matt Jones. I'm not sure how many people had him being the first round leader. So he'll be someone you got to catch. I gave out on this program on Tuesday and in our chalk article that was out yesterday, Russell Henley. I gave him out at 28 to 1, and he's 5 under through 15 right now. So he's only a couple of shots back and right in contention. Adam Scott got off to a good start. Gave a couple back with a double bogey late. So he's 1 under. He finished there. Sung Young Im, everyone likes him. He just started, but I really like the fact that Henley went out and he's 5 under so far through 15. I did have a head-to-head matchup this morning that wound up being a push, but it's okay. The push is not a loss. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm proud of Zach Johnson. I picked him.
You did, absolutely.
With the DraftKings, and he goes out and shoots 3 under, and. But I don't think anybody else is going to shoot 9 under on this course. No. I don't know if that's a course record or not, but I would have to think it might be.
I don't see that 9 under being topped probably the entire event, so he'll have a nice lead, but he could give a couple back. So I'd be surprised if the winner of the event was was as, in 11, 12, 13 under, but at 9, you're almost there. So good for him.
Yeah, very good. Well, I guess that'll do it for today, David, unless you have any other points of interest you want to cover.
I was going to say, as the tournament gets started tonight, I was a little surprised, as I'm sure you were, to see Michigan State in the play-in game. I think they're much better than an 11 seed, and it's easy to say because everyone always hears Tom Izzo, tournament time, they get it done, and they're a lot better than their record is. They've knocked off 3 of the top 8 teams in the country in their schedule. 5 quadrant 1 wins. So I was not only surprised they were an 11 seed, but I was surprised to see them at only -2. Like, I got golf on the brain. -2 versus UCLA tonight. So that's one of the plays I'm going to make. And, hopefully, I know it's a late one tonight, but I do like Michigan State to win that one.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll put a ribbon around this topic. The 12-5 has always been the upset, and I think it's kind of run its course. There's going to be a time where there's not going to be an upset in the 12-5, and I will state right now that the upsets are going to be in the 11-6. So with what David said with Michigan State, they win. I like them to upset BYU hands down. And I don't know quite yet what that line would be, but I can't imagine BYU being favored by more than 3.
No, probably.
And it might be pick.
Yeah, it depends on how Michigan State looks tonight, but that'll probably be a 2.5, 3-point game. And I have them advancing to the Sweet 16 as well, seeing Texas, where I think the run ends. But I don't think they beat Texas. They're a really good squad that's better than their record. Hopefully they show that tonight. It's hard to pick the upset when they have to play 1 extra game, but it is worth noting that they should, when that really the only 6 seed is worth anything is USC, and they got a nice matchup with Kansas if Kansas gets past Eastern Washington. Kansas is the one team every single year you really never want to have because they're just as likely to lose to a 14 seed as they are to Final Four, and that's Kansas in a nutshell.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You just can't trust them.
Right.
Especially ATS, betting them against Eastern Washington, who has a great offense. I can't even touch that game. But Wichita Drake, we've had a reverse money flow here too. Wichita State was initially favored. Now the money is going towards Drake. The number of tickets still remains in favor of Wichita, which means that the bigger better, the professional, is taking Drake. Mm-hmm. So, do you have any thought? Do you have any feel for that game?
I like Drake as well. I think Drake is, they were one of the last undefeated teams, and they played a tough early schedule. Obviously, playing in a little bit of a softer conference at the end of the year. But I do like Drake, and I think that they're better than Wichita. I do like the matchup. This is one of those matchups that you would love to see in mid-February as one of your bracket busters, and ultimately it is a bracket buster because they're playing a play-in game to get on to go play USC. So,
and the winner of that game, I just think USC is not a 6. You can't tell me that Loyola Chicago is an 8 and USC is a 6. I could be dead wrong. It's just an opinion, but.
No, I agree. And the other 6s, you look at Texas Tech, not the same team that Beard had 2 years ago that made the final run. And could Utah State knock them off? Possibly. I wouldn't put it past them. And I actually have Syracuse beating San Diego State in the other one. So, if you're in a pool where picking upsets gets you an advantage in terms of points, then the 11 seeds is absolutely where to go. And I agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, they're pretty good. Pretty good matchup in terms of straight up record too. Mm-hmm. If you played the money line over the last since 1985, you would be ahead playing the money line, taking the 11 seed.
Yeah, the 6 seeds have not done well overall in the tournament. I know that they get to play the 3, and if they beat the 3, they're going to play the 2. But they've had trouble beating the 11. So yeah, that would those aren't bad plays there.
Well, I can't wait. Cannot wait.
We're here. A year ago, we didn't have a tournament, so we're here, and it's exciting to kick off tonight with 4 games. I like that all 4 games are one night. I actually like that.
Yeah, I do too. I'm about ready to jump out of my shoes. It's just awesome.
Got a few more meetings, and then I'll be able to sit in front and watch the end of the golf and watch some basketball tonight. So you enjoy that as well.
I definitely will. Dave, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Look forward to the next time pretty soon. And for the Predictive Playbook, I am John Ryan. and may all the wins be yours.